Hello, this is Sonia with The Pretty Stitch. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time joining me, I'm so happy to have you here. So today is Wednesday, and that means it's the Stitch of the Week. So for today's stitch, we are going to be doing this stitch that I recently discovered, and I thought I'd share it with you. It's called a linked double crochet. So for this stitch, I'm using an H-hook or 5mm, and again, worsted weight yarn because, I have a ton of it. So trying to use it up for swatches and whatever I can think of. So this is similar to a double crochet, but the difference is the stitches are more tightly packed together, so they're ideal for if you wanted to make a sweater out of double crochet. Sometimes when you are making regular double crochet, it can gap a little bit, or you would have to use, like, let's say worsted weight yarn and then a really small hook so that the stitches are nicely, compact. Because if you want to have a sweater where you don't have to worry about wearing something underneath, otherwise you might need to wear something so that it, you don't have a peep show there. So this is a nice stitch for that. It's definitely more dense, and you could use it for a variety of projects, not just sweaters. Anything that you would want a more denser stitch. So to get started, we are going to be chaining, let's do 8. Okay, so we have 8 chains here. So the linked double crochet, it's kind of worked like a double crochet and it's kind of not. It's almost like a cluster type of stitch, hence, linked. So they're, linked together. When you work cluster stitches, they tend to be linked. So anyway, what we're going to do is we are not going to yarn over first. Usually you yarn over first to work a regular double crochet, but we're not going to do that. We are going to work in our second chain from our hook. So you're going to insert your hook into the second chain and work in the chain however you wish and pull up a loop. So we have 2 loops on our hook. Now we're going to work in the next chain and we're going to pull up a loop. Just like that. So now we have 3 loops on our hook. So now what we're going to do is, when you're working regular double crochet, you have 3 loops on your hook before you start working off all the loops. So you're going to do the same thing. So just work a regular double crochet. So you're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So it is like a regular double crochet, but kind of with some extra steps involved and mixed up a little bit. Alright, so now we need to work the second linked double crochet. So when you're looking at this stitch here, so we're looking at this stitch, and when I am learning new stitches, and I like to kind of examine the stitch, see how it's made up, what it's composed of. I just think that helps when you're with your stitching, your crocheting, because if you know how the stitch is supposed to look and what it's made up of, you can help you just to be a little bit more successful, or know if you're on the right track, or if you mess something up. So it might seem a little tedious, but I do recommend doing that instead of just blindly stitching and then later you're looking at your project and you're like, I'm not sure what's wrong, but something's wrong and I don't know what. So if you know a little bit how the stitch is made up of, then it will help you in catching mistakes down the road. Alright, so let's take a look at this guy. So first glance, it looks like a regular double crochet. You look at the top and you could work right on top there. But if you notice, there's part of the stitch, it's a little bit more pronounced right here. There's a loop right here. This guy, you're actually going to be working in this guy. This helps to create the linked effect with the double crochet. So let's put our hook back in our loop and let's get going with this. So I hope you're bearing with me, but I just want to help you guys out so you'll be successful. So what you're going to do is you're going to insert no yarn overs again. You're going to insert your hook right in that loop. So you have your 2 loops and you're going to pull up a loop. So you have 2, and now you can see that more pronounced there, that extra loop. So we have the 2 loops on our hook. So now you're going to go into your chain, insert your hook in the chain, pull up a loop. So now we have our 3 loops again. Now we can work a regular double crochet. So now we've created 2 linked double crochets. And with this stitch you can really see, oops, Yeah, I'm just get the pointy end here. It's easier. See this guy. We're going to be working in here for the remainder of the row here. So let's continue. So we'll insert our hook right in that loop. Yarn over, pull up a loop. Just like that, 2 loops. Now we go in our chain, pull up a loop. Now we work our regular double crochet stitch. And you're going to continue. So now you can see as we've got 3 stitches in, you can definitely see that extra loop here. It's a lot more pronounced now that we have the 3. The first one, it's kind of a little tricky, but as you've got the 3, you can see the sky pretty good now, and that's where you want to work. Alright, so let's go back in there, insert our hook in that guy, that chain, or that loop, not chain, I'm sorry. We will be working in the chain. Pull up a loop, and we'll go into the next chain here. Pull up a loop. Now we work our regular double crochet, and we'll just keep going across this chain. So there's a little bit more steps involved than just a traditional double crochet, but I don't think it's too, it's going to take too much extra time. So we'll go right back in that loop, pull up a loop, go right back into that chain. Now we work our final linked double crochet for row 1. So you're probably wondering, how do you do this stitch for row 2? Because if you turn her over, we'll be working on this side. It looks like a regular double crochet. There's no really extra loops. I mean, I guess you could kind of work in here, but it would be a little tricky. So I'm going to show you how to get started for the next row. So for the next row, we're going to chain 2, turn our work. So just like we did for row 1, you're going to be working in that chain 2. So you're going to insert your hook in the second, chain from your hook, pull up your loop. Now we're going to go right in this first stitch. A lot of times when you're working regular double crochet, you're going to chain 3 or chain 2, and that's going to count as your stitch, but you're actually working your first linked double crochet right in that same stitch. So I'm going to go right back in there, pull up a loop. So now I have my 3 loops. Now I can continue and work my regular double crochet. So now we've got the linked, we have that extra little loop there. So now we can work the second stitch. Pop your hook in there, pull up your loop, go right into the next stitch, pull up a loop, work your regular double crochet. And this is how you're going to repeat all the rest of your rows. So you're going to repeat row 2 for however long you want your swatch. So right back in there. Go right back in. So as you can see, it's definitely a more compacted stitch, but taller. So it's a nice alternative if you want a taller stitch, but you don't want to see, all the gaps as you might normally see with traditional double crochet. So here is our last stitch. So now we've worked our second row of linked double crochet. So we have 6 stitches here. So just like if you were working a regular double crochet, let's say with chaining, some people have a hard time. Let's say you need 8 double crochet, they don't know how many chains. So all you do is you do 8 chains plus 2, so you would chain 10, and then traditionally you would work in the 4th chain from your hook. Your skipped chain 3 counts as a stitch, and you would have your 8 double crochet. So we did 8 chains, so now we have 6. So it's kind of the same principle. So if I wanted 8 double crochet, then I would have chained 10 to work my linked double crochet. So I'm going to do a couple more rows so you can see how this looks, and I will meet you back. All right, so here I have worked a couple rows of linked double crochet. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows of linked double crochet. So I thought I'd also show you how you could incorporate this stitch into the round. So here we go. I've already worked 14 linked double crochet, and you can really see it in this color how you have that extra loop right there. So let's do this in the round. So I've worked 14 in the round, so now I'm going to turn this into a circle. Now you can certainly join and then just work in rows, work on the wrong side, but we're going to do this all in the same side here. So I'm going to join in my first stitch with a slip stitch, just like that. And so now we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to chain 2. So I have my 2 chains. I'm working in the second chain from my hook, pulling up a loop. So I have my 2 loops. So now I'm going to go right back in that stitch right there and pull up a loop. So I have my 3 loops and working a regular double crochet. So now you can really see that extra loop there. Pop my hook in there, pull up a loop, go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, 3 loops, yarn over, work my regular double crochet stitch, and just continue around. So I tried to see if there was a way to do this in continuous rounds to avoid a seam, but I think you kind of have to join it to really get it going. So, but I still think it would look pretty nice in the round. And if you wanted to make this using a sweater, you could, do the joins in an inconspicuous area. So either in the back, or you could somehow finagle it like on the side if you were working like a neckline under the arm. Like I really try to think things through sometimes when I'm making stuff, because you don't want to see an obvious seam. So, or you could just do it in pieces and rows and then seam it all together, but sometimes I don't like doing that. So I'm just going to continue working my round 2 here of my linked double crochet, and I'll meet you back. Alright, so I'm almost done my round 2, but I just thought I would show you how to do an increase with this stitch as well, because a lot of times working in the round you need to increase. So what you would do is you would insert your hook in that loop there, pull up your loop, and you would go right back in that same stitch to pull up that loop instead of into the next stitch, and then work your regular double crochet. So then you can see you've got the 2 stitches in that same stitch. So very simple, and I'm just going to, and then to finish up, this will be my last stitch of this round, working in that guy. So definitely very versatile. So I should have 15 stitches, so let's make sure I did it right. Yes, we have 15, so we did increase correctly there. So then to finish off my round, I would just work on top there and join with a slip stitch. And now you have worked your linked double crochet in the round. So here we have a little bit of a gap here, and you can easily fix that with using your tail, cinching that there. You could even, I've done this too with finishing, and this is all about finishing, is you take your tail and you can kind of even weave it through and then even help to close that gap. I probably need to play with this stitch a little bit more to help eliminate gaps, because that's the point of this stitch. You want it to be nicely, closely packed together, so you wouldn't want your joins to be all loosey-goosey. Alright, so we have worked in the round, we've increased, so I thought I would show you a decrease too that you could do, or together stitch, because you might need to do that too in the round. So let's get started for our 3rd round, then we'll finish up with this stitch. Maybe you're sick of it, but usually you need to know how to decrease, increase with some of these stitches. So we have the 2 stitches working in, or 2 chains, I'm sorry, pull up a loop, go right back in there, pull up a loop. So here's our first stitch. So let's say we want to do a decrease or together stitch in the next two. So how would you go about doing that? So when you insert your hook right in that first loop there, pull up your loop. So then what you could do is put your hook into the next stitch. Or if you're working in the round, you could even do it like this. I think this streamlines things. So work in the front loop, like that, yarn over, pull through the two, and then I would just pull through all three, because I think if you did a regular double crochet, your stitch might be too tall, and you really don't want to, you know, have one stitch this length and then another one taller, unless you know you're going for that like chevron looking effect. But if you just want to have nice even stitches around, then I would do that. So let's do that again. So if you're looking at this stitch, so your loop, see it's connected, here's a loop here, it's up a little bit higher, but that's okay. So you would insert your hook right in that loop there. There she is. Pull up a loop and we'll decrease in the next, and we'll work in all through the loops. I showed that one working in the front loop, but what if you're working in rows? So you'd pull up a loop there, pull up a loop there. So we've got our 4. So this is 2 different ways of decreasing. Then you would pull through 2, and then I would just pull through all 3, because again, symmetry, you want your stitches to be, you know, close in height. So you can see they're pretty close in height. So that's 2 different ways of, you could do a decrease stitch or together stitch. And then I'm just going to work even, so I'm going to go right back so you can see how the extra loop's kind of connected, even though it's up a little bit higher. There it is. Put your hook in there, pull up a loop. We're just going to go right in that next stitch, and then work our regular linked double crochet. My yarn is caught. Come on. Need a little bit more. And then you can see how the stitches are pretty nice and even, and you can't really tell that you did a decrease too much there. So here we go with our linked double crochet and different ways of using it. So I hope you enjoyed this stitch of the week, and I thank you so much for watching.